Human-wildlife conflict and the management of large elephant populations is indeed a real concern, especially in countries with large elephant populations. I urge us to work together as a continent to find alternative and sustainable solutions to mitigate human-wildlife conflicts which affect rural livelihoods and address the threats of climate change. Let us consider the disastrous effect of reopening the ivory trade. What this will do to destroy the gains we have made, the investments and resources we have invested, and the many lives lost by our wardens, our heroes, who have put their lives on the line to stop the killing of our elephants. Today, we are lobbying and petitioning for the closure of all ivory markets and boldly advocating for the placement of all elephants onto Appendix 1 of CITES. This is Kenya's position alongside 31 African members of the AEC at the upcoming 18th Conference of Parties to the CITES Convention. Kenya is the only country on this continent that hosts a digital database of all wildlife crime cases and provides whistleblowing platforms to augment the law enforcement efforts. The impact of these investments has resulted in the growth of our elephant herds. All this has been made possible thanks to collective action and collaboration of many actors, agencies, including local communities. I congratulate the Ministry of Tourism, the partners represented here for their hard work, but we must commit to working harder as stakeholders and custodians of our environment for future generations. That is why we have gathered here this morning to reaffirm Kenya's stand, to stand together as African Elephant Coalition member states against reopening the ivory trade. As patron of Hands Off Our Elephants, I too stand for this cause. We commend our sister countries in Africa for their conservation efforts and urge them to continue to stand with us. Over the years, we have learnt that every time there's been a decision by CITES parties to reopen the ivory trade, this has resulted in increased elephant poaching and illicit trafficking of ivory. Kenya is a key transit hub in the region and unfortunately also a transit for illegal trade of rhino horn, pangolin scales, and ivory. In the first quarter of this year, over 22 tons of ivory were seized globally from thousands of poached elephants. This confirms the ongoing existence of transnational crime. More recently, another large consignment of elephant tusks was impounded in Singapore, confirming that the task before us is not yet over. We applaud the commitment by China and many European countries in supporting our call to close ivory markets. At a national level, we have put in place stronger aerial surveillance around our parks, built a robust law enforcement body, and put in deterrent measures in our ports and airports to mitigate poaching and illegal trade. We have more rangers on the ground, and we have created an elite anti-poaching force. We have also embarked on training of specialist prosecutors, magistrates, and judges on wildlife trade. Kenya is host to the most exotic and diverse wildlife species in the world, and as a country, we lead in our resolve to eradicate illegal wildlife trade and build coalitions with partners to strengthen our joint actions to protect our wildlife. Kenya has championed and petitioned for the closure of ivory markets worldwide. We have done this by lobbying for this agenda and by publicly disposing of our entire ivory stockpiles 5 times since 1989. Our actions have not only captured global attention, but inspired other ivory destruction in other countries. It's also contributed to the listing of the African elephant in the CITES Appendix 1 that same year. These bold actions were required at a national, continental, and international front to protect the global population of elephants that had declined from 1.2 million to below 400,000. Ladies and gentlemen, these actions have contributed to the significant decline of poaching and ivory trade, but unfortunately we're aware of several emerging threats and thriving markets that have eroded the gains that we have made.
We are here launching the two-pronged awareness promotion about CITES CoP18 meeting in partnership with Kenya Airways. And I want to say thank you very much, Michael Joseph and Sebastian Mikos, for supporting this, as well as the Kenya Airport Authority for allowing us to do the campaign at the airport, and we start the campaign tomorrow. We are going to introduce, and again, Kenya Airways has printed boarding passes, which is like this: 400,000 special edition boarding passes. These boarding passes are going to be used globally to show the awareness of campaign. And that's why today we say the trade of ivory is ripping Kenya apart. Because the minute you trade in ivory, our national heritage is being destroyed. Our entire economy depends on tourism, and tourism is nature-based, which we depend on our elephants. So these boarding passes are going to be used globally. It's about ripping off the boarding pass, but as well, this trade is going to rip off our African elephant. So this is a campaign specifically. And today, 1st of August, Kenya Airways has issued a special edition with 2 pages of editorial on this campaign of saving the elephants. And from tomorrow, we'll go with Kenya Airways and Kenya Airport Authority to launch this campaign. And at the airport, at the transit lounge or transit corridors, we'll have an exhibition of ivory, sniffer dogs, and security to show the public what are we doing in saving the ivory and the campaign against the ivory trade. So this is a very major event today, and we thank KQ. And then, when you have this boarding pass, you use your phone, you scan your QR code, immediately it links you to the website of the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, where you have the entire details of CITES, as well as the information of what we are doing in our positions against the elephant and the ivory trade. So that is the campaign today we are launching.
In 2016, and preceding the 17th meeting of the Conference of Parties to CITES, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, and again on this same site, torched 105 tons of elephant ivory and over 1 ton of rhino horn to express and reconfirm Kenya's position of no trade in elephant ivory and rhino horn. There is need for the world to be reminded that it is time to completely ban the trade in elephant ivory and rhino horns and close all the markets to guarantee the survival of the 2 species. I'm excited that again, from the same site, and after an elephant's generation period, a renewal of the 1989 declaration and the expression in 2016 is happening again. All the nations of the world must listen to what will be declared from here today.
On behalf of Kenya Airways, I'm delighted to be part of this noble initiative geared towards breaking the illegal chains of unlawful commercialization of our elephants and other endangered species. As you may be aware, Kenya Airways is one of the founder members of the United for Wildlife Transport Task Force, And as an airline, we have played a leading role in spearheading wildlife protection in the 56 destinations where we fly worldwide, and the majority of them in Africa. In addition, for this occasion, Kenya Airways has printed 400,000 special edition boarding passes to emphasize that elephants and ivory should not be ripped apart. Please save these passes as an important memento of this occasion. And this is a reminder to not only to you, but all our passengers traveling of this campaign in advance of the CITES conference in Geneva in August. We as Kenya Airways have adopted a zero tolerance policy on illegal wildlife trade, included in our corporate whistleblowing policy, and commenced the development of standard operating procedures with the Kenya Customs, Kenya Wildlife Service, Kenya Airports Authority on the handling of illegal wildlife trade at the airports. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest challenges we face in the wildlife conservation is the sophistication of systems and intelligence that is in the hands of the illegal wildlife syndicates around the world. These have slowed the gains we have made in breaking through this illegal industry. We can therefore no longer consider traditional or conservative solutions, and we must continuously look for ways in this new age of technology and innovation to stay ahead. The Rip-Off campaign that we are launching today will raise the much-needed awareness and will be a strong indicator and reminder that we must keep our hands off our elephants. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to emphasize that there is a need for more financing, for more effective monitoring and enforcement, as well as the reduction of consumer demand to stop ivory trade, whose earnings amount to over $19 billion per annum in illicit profit and the death of over 30,000 elephants a year. I thank the government of Kenya, and particularly the CS Balala, for his efforts and leading this. And I also thank very much the First Lady for attending this function and for putting her special position in trying to stop this trade in ivory. And I think the CITES conference is coming up, as I'm sure the CS Balala will mention, is a very important conference coming ahead of us, and we must make every effort to stop any opening of